I was a shuttle pilot for the deep sleep prison program. One of the inmates woke up. I just deliver the frozen ones. I never asked why, until one of them started talking. Throwaway account. Can't risk posting this on my main. I don't even know why I'm doing this, guess I just need to say it somewhere before it eats me alive, so yeah. Title says it all, I fly a prison transport shuttle. Nothing fancy. I'm not a war hero or a test pilot or whatever you're picturing. I'm just a contract hauler for the NFCN, New Federal Correctional Network. Basically, I cart deep sleep inmates from one end of the system to the other. They load them up cold, frozen solid in these coffin-sized cryotubes, and I keep them that way for the trip. My route's a long-haul line between Callisto Correctional Hub and a mining moon in the far Kuiper block. 31 days round trip. No stops. No comms. Just me, the AI, and a hull full of meat cycles, and yeah, before you ask, I don't know what most of them did. We're not supposed to look. Black glass IDs only. No names. No charges. Just a red stripe if they're class Omega, dangerous enough to keep on ice forever. I used to joke that it was the easiest job in the system. No passengers, no complaints, no bathroom breaks. Just silence. The good kind, until this run, until 4 days ago, it was the middle of the night cycle. I keep the lights low to save power and because, honestly, I prefer the dark out here. Less to look at. I was eating this awful rehydrated stew and watching reruns of a poker tournament from 2133 when the proximity alarm went off. That alone was weird. We're in deep space. Nothing but dust and ghosts out here. I checked the system, nothing outside, but something inside. Bay 4 had a motion flag. I figured it was a glitch. The cryopods aren't supposed to move. They're sealed and clamped. I did the usual, rebooted the sensor, ran a diagnostic, told myself it was just the AI being twitchy again. But then it happened again. Bay 4. Pod 11. Motion detected. I know this is going to sound dumb, but I didn't go check right away. Part of me didn't want to know. The pods have never malfunctioned in my runs. Never. And I guess I thought if I ignored it long enough, the AI would fix it. Spoiler, it didn't. Around 0200 ship time, the camera feed in Bay 4 flickered. Just for a second. But I saw it, the frost on Pod 11's faceplate was melting, and behind the glass, eyes, open, looking straight at the camera, I ran, not proud of it, but I ran like a rookie. Slammed the bulkhead shut behind me, locked down the bay, damn near tripped over myself trying to override the AI's auto-wake sequence. Except, there wasn't one, there was no auto-wake logged. No breach. No heat spike. The ship log said Pod 11 was still fully frozen, but I saw him, eyes open. Watching, I spent the next hour in the cockpit, just staring at the readouts. My heart wouldn't slow down. I kept expecting the AI to say something, to flag it again. But it didn't. Pod 11 was back to normal. According to the ship, nothing had happened, so I did what anyone would do in my situation. I told myself I imagined it. Lack of sleep. Compression fatigue. Maybe I wanted something weird to happen after all these years alone. I went back to my bunk. Popped a sleep tab. Shut it down. I almost convinced myself I dreamed it. Until last night, when I passed Bay 4 again, I heard knocking, just 2 slow, steady taps, from inside the pod. I haven't opened it. Not yet. I'm not stupid, and I'm not suicidal. Whatever's in there, if it's really awake, was locked away for a reason. Deep sleep sentences don't get handed out for parking violations, but now I can't stop thinking about it. I swear I hear breathing on the hull sometimes. I check the feeds and see nothing. The AI keeps calling the pod dormant, and just now, right before I typed this, I checked the internal logs one more time. There's a new file in the private cache. Encrypted, timestamped 3 days from now, labeled, Hart, memory flag initiated. I didn't put it there, but someone, or something, knows my name. I'll update if anything else happens. If I make it to drop off. If I don't lose my mind first, let me know I'm not crazy, please. Update. As promised, I wasn't gonna check the log. I really wasn't. I mean, how would you feel knowing there's an audio file from the future with your name on it just sitting in the ship's core memory? You tell yourself to ignore it. You tell yourself not to make it real, but you'd still listen, and I did, had to bypass a couple layers of encryption. Not something I'm supposed to know how to do. But this ship's been my home for 6 years. You learn things. Get bored enough and you'll find ways to poke around, especially with Vesta, our ship AI, being the half-senile rust bucket she is, anyway. I finally cracked the file. It was short. Just over 40 seconds, no background noise. No markers. No metadata, just a voice, my voice, except. Not quite, it sounded like me, but tired. Slower. Hoarse, like I'd been crying or screaming. And the words, it was like hearing myself from the bottom of a well. Here's what it said. I wrote it down as best I could, Mason. If you're hearing this, the seal's already broken. Don't open the pod. Don't talk to him. Don't believe anything Vesta says after day 12. Get off this ship. Jump coordinates if you have to. Just. Don't try to fix it. We were wrong about what sleep does. About what stays inside. Then there's this long pause. And at the very end, almost too quiet to hear, he knows we're listening now. And then silence. I didn't sleep. Again, Vesta didn't say anything when I accessed the file. No security alerts, no lockout. Which is weird, because AI systems are supposed to flag core memory breaches immediately. It's standard protocol. I even asked her, Vesta, did you detect any unauthorized access to encrypted storage tonight? She said, completely flat, no irregularities detected, Pilot Hart. Memory core is clean. Except her voice stuttered when she said Hart. A little hitch. Like it caught in her code. I've never heard that before. Around 0400 ship time, I went back down to Bay 4. I told myself I was just checking the cryo seals. You know, doing my job. That's what I told myself. I stood in front of Pod 11 for 5 minutes, watching the frost bloom and fade along the edges of the glass. The eyes were closed this time, but the condensation on the inside, it was fogged like someone exhaled on it. I wiped it down. Tried to look inside, but the internal lights were off. Pod diagnostics showed dormant. But when I put my hand on the glass, it was warm. The rest of the pods were ice cold, like they should be. But Pod 11 felt like a pulse. I went back to the cockpit and pulled up the ship logs. I needed to check something. Anything. Maybe I'd missed a warning or error code. That's when I found the second audio file, same encrypted signature. Same voice, but this one was tagged as recorded by me, today, at 0200, except I never said a word today, and this time, the voice was whispering, over and over, I never left. I never left. I never left. For 3 minutes straight, until it cuts off with the sound of breathing, not human breathing. Something slower. Wet. Rhythmic, like a lung trying to remember how to be alive, so now I'm stuck here. Mid-flight. 2 weeks left until we reach the drop point. And every night, I hear something new, a faint knock. A whisper. Vesta mispronouncing a word she said 1,000 times before. I haven't opened the pod, I don't plan to, but I'm starting to wonder if that even matters, because I think, whatever was inside, it's not asleep anymore, and it knows who I am. I wish I could say this is some long con. That I'm spinning ghost stories from the ass end of the solar system for karma and kicks, but I'm not that creative. And today scared the hell out of me in a new way. It wasn't the pod this time, it was me. I woke up thinking it was day 6, the ship calendar said day 8, that happens sometimes, sleep gets weird out here. No sunrise, no birds, just the hum of recycled air and the AI telling you when to eat. So fine. Maybe I miscounted, but then I found an empty food tray on the console. Chicken-style protein cubes and grain mash. Half eaten. My brand of Stimty still steaming. Problem is, I don't eat that combo for breakfast. Ever, and I sure as hell didn't eat it today. At least, not that I remember. I sat there for a good 10 minutes, just staring at the tray. Wondering if maybe I'd gotten up earlier and forgot. Wondering if maybe I'm finally losing it. Then the AI chimes in, reminder, Pilot Hart has not consumed a meal in 23 hours. Recommend nutrition cycle. I asked her straight up, Vesta, who prepared this tray? No record of recent food prep, Pilot Hart. So either she's lying, or someone else was in the kitchen. I went straight to Bay 4. Shouldn't have. I should have just locked the damn bulkhead and stopped digging. But you already know I didn't. Here's where it gets worse. Cryopods have timers, simple counters that tell you how long the system's been active for that particular subject. Like a stopwatch for hibernation, I've checked pod 11 every day since this started. Noted the timestamp. Today, it had reset to 0. I stood there for a full minute, just watching the blinking numbers, 00:00:03:47, which means that pod restarted 3 minutes and 47 seconds before I walked in, like someone, or something, shut it down and booted it back up again. No log. No alert. Just a fresh timer and a strange hum in the air, like the static you get right before a blackout. I reached for the manual latch, just to check if the emergency override had been tampered with. And for a split second, my hand hovered over the seal. That's when the pod's interior light turned on, not all the way, just a dim red pulse from within, like a heartbeat sinking to mine, and I heard it, from inside, not knocking this time, breathing, a long, shuddering inhale, then the faintest whisper, almost there. I ran diagnostics on myself. I know that sounds stupid, but deep space isolation can cause all kinds of cognitive slip. Paranoia. Temporal disorientation. Hallucinations. There's even a name for it, long drift syndrome, except all my vitals came back clean. Stress high, sure, but nothing outside norm parameters. But here's the part that made my skin crawl. When I ran my personal memory log backup, the thing that timestamps your day with passive entries. The last 2 entries were corrupted. Not missing. Rewritten. One was a looped file of me brushing my teeth. 34 seconds, played 5 times in a row. The other was this clip, grainy, silent, of me standing in front of pod 11, smiling, just smiling at it. For 4 minutes, and I don't remember any of it. If this is a prank, it's a damn good one. If it's psychosis, I'll take the meds. If it's him, whatever the hell is in pod 11, I need to know what he wants before I lose whatever's left of my head. Vesta's been quiet all day. Too quiet. She usually nags me about maintenance or oxygen optimization or crew performance metrics. But not today. Just silence, and when I asked her to run a ship-wide memory scrub, she replied, "You are not authorized to delete yourself." Which is not what I asked. I'm locking the cockpit tonight. Pulling the manual override. I don't care if it triggers a flag back at Callisto. Something's changing in this ship, and I think I'm next. I lost time again. This time, it wasn't a dream or a bad breakfast or some corrupted log. It was 7 full minutes. Gone. Here's how it started. I was doing a routine hull drift correction, basic maneuvering to keep the ship stable on course. Nothing special. The kind of thing you could do half asleep. Midway through the adjustment, the cockpit lights flickered. Nothing new. Vesta's been glitchy ever since we passed the outer relay. But then everything cut out. Not just the lights, everything. No power. No audio. No oxygen flow hum. No gravity stabilization, just dead silence and the pitch black of deep space. I floated there, hand on the console, heart pounding so loud it felt like it echoed. I've never heard silence like that before. Not in 6 years of flight. I called for Vesta. No response. I reached for the manual override on the console, and then, nothing. Next thing I know, I'm on the floor, power's back on. Lights humming. And 7 minutes have passed. The ship clock had jumped from 14:22 to 14:29, but my internal log only showed 5 seconds, just 5 seconds of dead air, like someone cut the film reel. I stood up. Checked the system logs, blank. No errors. No record of the blackout. Vesta still wouldn't answer. I thought maybe her core had finally shorted, so I made my way to the back panel to access her diagnostics unit. That's when I saw it, writing, on the wall. Just above the emergency toolkit locker, a short sentence, in my handwriting, written in grease pencil. I haven't used a grease pencil in over a year. Didn't even remember where I kept it, but there it was, scrawled in thick dark strokes. You opened it already. I stood there for a full minute, just staring, heart hammering, because I haven't opened pod 11, not consciously. Not physically. Not yet, right? Unless I did during the blackout. Unless he did, Unless this isn't just memory loss, maybe it's replacement, like something's editing me, like someone is. I checked pod 11 again. I know. Stupid, the cryo timer is now reading 22 hours. That's not right. That's not how time works on that system. It shouldn't be drifting like that. Not unless someone's tampering, or waking up in intervals. The condensation's heavier today. Like someone breathed against the glass and didn't stop. And this time, there's a smudge, a mark, 4 fingers, pressed against the inside of the pod. Long, too long. Vesta finally came back online around 1700 hours. She said she was performing a core rewrite for integrity. I asked her to confirm the last system blackout. She said, no blackout occurred. I asked her who wrote on the wall, unknown. No external access to cabin 2B during that time window. I asked her what happened during the missing 7 minutes. There was a pause, then she said, what 7 minutes? I didn't sleep again, I'm keeping the pencil. I don't remember writing that sentence. But I remember my hand cramping when I woke up. If I am doing these things in some kind of fugue, why would I warn myself? Why write it down, unless it wasn't me, unless I'm being rewritten, one blackout at a time. I thought I was losing it, then I found the video. I've been avoiding the security cam since day one. Too many gaps in the logs, too many silent patches where the cameras black out for minutes at a time. But tonight, desperate, I ran a full diagnostic sweep on the surveillance system, and that's when the footage popped up. The timestamp read 14:23, smack in the middle of the blackout. There I was, walking down the corridor towards Bay 4, slow, hesitant. Like I was half asleep. I'm wearing the standard uniform, gray jumpsuit, ID badge clipped tight. I reach pod 11, pause, and then I open it. Here's the thing, I don't remember any of this, not a single second, and I'm pretty sure I'd notice opening a sealed cryopod, especially one with a potentially live occupant. But the worst part, there's something else in the hallway behind me. At first, I thought it was a shadow. But it's too defined, tall, human-shaped, it doesn't move. Then I noticed the reflection in the glass panels along the corridor. You know how glass can catch reflections at weird angles? Well, in the mirror behind me, I see a face, not mine, not fully, something wrong about it, distorted, eyes too dark, and it's watching. I replayed the clip over and over, slow motion, frame by frame, and every time I swear that face blinks. I tried to pull up the AI logs, nothing, no record of pod 11 being opened, no override command, no security alert, just silence. I checked the pod status remotely. Temperature rising, cryo suspension unstable, heartbeat sensors weak, but present, breathing shallow. I'm starting to believe I'm not alone on this ship, and whatever's in pod 11, it's awake, it's watching me, and it's inside my head. I haven't told anyone. There's no one to tell, just this damn ship, and me. If you're still reading, thanks. I'm not sure how much longer I can keep this together, but I'll keep posting. I don't know how to explain this without sounding insane, but I opened pod 11. I told myself I'd wait until I was sure it was safe, but curiosity won, and maybe something else. The pod hissed as it cycled open, cold air spilled out like a breath held too long. Inside was a man, mid-30s, dark hair, sharp eyes that didn't quite match his tired face. He looked at me, no fear, no panic, just this quiet knowing. I wanted to ask who he was, what he was doing here, why he was in cryo, but all I could do was stare. Then he spoke, not a word, just a gesture. He raised a finger to his lips, shoo, and in that moment, I felt something shift, like the ship itself held its breath, like the walls leaned in closer. I've been alone for so long I forgot what it's like to feel watched, but with him there, it was different. The pod started beeping, low and urgent. His vitals were unstable, cryo was failing. I fumbled with the controls, trying to stabilize the system. He didn't move, just kept watching. Then I realized the eyes weren't just tired, they were scared. But scared of what? Me? The ship? I don't know, but the silence was louder than any alarm. I closed the pod, locked it down, and walked away. I don't know what this means, but I'm starting to think the real prisoner isn't in pod 11, it's me. I didn't sleep. Again, every time I closed my eyes, I saw that man's face, not angry, not aggressive, just waiting. I spent most of the day combing through system files, looking for anything about him, and that's when I found it, an audio log, tucked deep in the ship's internal cache, inside a corrupted maintenance folder labeled Echo Protocol. I didn't name that, I've never seen it before, the file was dated 6 months ago. Problem is, I boarded this ship 4 months ago, and it's my voice. I played it. Here's what it said. You won't remember this. Not fully. Not the first time. But you need to listen, and you need to trust me. Don't open pod 11. Whatever he tells you, whatever you feel, it's not yours. It's him. He leaks. Through memory. Through thought. Through you. If you're hearing this, you've already gone too far. Get to the outer relay. Set the beacon. Leave the ship. Then silence, then static. I played it again, same voice. Same rhythm. Same pauses I make when I'm nervous. That's me. I know how I sound, but I never said those words, so now I'm left with 2 possibilities. 1. Someone faked my voice. 2. I recorded that. Before I ever boarded. Neither makes sense. Unless I've been here before. Vesta refuses to acknowledge the recording. She says the folder doesn't exist. Even when I show her the file path, she just says, no such protocol is registered. That same cold, neutral voice, like I'm just a passenger she's tolerating. I check the pod again, still sealed, still quiet, but the condensation on the glass is back, and this time, the message is reversed, written from the inside, smudged into the fog. 3 words, we've done this. I want to scream, but I can't, because I think they're right. I couldn't let it go, that recording, that message in the condensation, we've done this. I had to know if it was just a glitch or if something worse was happening. Something bigger, so I broke into the root system. Not supposed to. Technically voids my contract, voids my command chain, voids everything, but screw it, none of this feels real anymore. The first folder I found was called MH02_AFT, inside were logs. Long ones, video. Audio. Transcripts. I thought maybe it was maintenance data tied to my name. Then I opened the first file. It was me, same voice, same face, but different shirt, worn differently. Like I wasn't me, he was scared, he looked older. Or maybe just tired in a different way. He said, this is attempt 4. Vesta wiped it again. I'm logging from the cargo hold this time. If you're watching this, don't trust her. Don't trust yourself. The man in pod 11, he's the key, but only if you keep him asleep. He paused, looked off screen, then whispered. I tried letting him speak once. That's how the others died. I backed out, shaking. There were more folders, MH03, MH04. Up to MH07, some had corrupted files, some were empty. But MH05 had a short clip, just 10 seconds, security footage, a man, me, running toward the airlock, barefoot, bleeding from the nose, slamming the override button, then nothing, no log of a suit check, no life support. He went out the door. I have no memory of any of this. But the ship remembers, somewhere in its code, in its metal, in its silence, it remembers all of us. I'm starting to think Mason Hart isn't a person, he's a role, and I'm just the latest poor bastard to wear the mask. And pod 11, he might be the only one who actually knows what the hell is going on. I don't know what scares me more, that I've done this before, or that I might do it again. I told myself I wouldn't open it again. I swore I wouldn't, but after what I saw in those logs. The other versions of me, the resets, the airlock, I couldn't stay away. I had to know if he knew, if he remembered, if he was the reason this keeps happening. I went down there around 0200 hours, lights were dim. Vesta was silent. Almost like she knew. I stood in front of pod 11 with my hand hovering over the unlock panel. I waited, listened, nothing. Then I touched the glass. It was warm. That's not supposed to happen. Cryo keeps the bodies near frozen. The glass should be cold, but this felt like skin temp. Like someone had been breathing on it from the inside. I took a breath, braced myself, and unlocked the pod. It hissed open, slow and heavy, like it didn't want to, and there he was, same man. Pale skin, frost clinging to his collar, eyes closed, then they opened, and he looked at me, straight through me, and then he spoke. But it wasn't just him, it was me, my voice, my tone, my words, perfectly mimicked. He said, Mason, don't panic. You've been here before. You told me to say this when it was time. I stumbled back, nearly slipped on the frost, my heart was going ballistic, and my mouth was dry. I asked, what the hell are you? And he just looked at me, tired, almost sad, then said, We were trying to fix it. You thought putting me to sleep would help. But it only made the loop tighter. Loop, that word again. I demanded answers. Who was he? What was this place? Why did I keep resetting? Why were there other versions of me? He didn't say much, but he did say this: you're not the first Mason Hart. You're just the one who made it far enough to ask the right questions. And then, his eyes rolled back, his body convulsed, the pod alarms blared, and I slammed the seal shut again. He's alive, but barely. Vitals are erratic now. Spiking and crashing in these weird patterns, and the cryo system is glitching hard. I checked the backup logs, and that's when I found the file labeled Mason_Hart_final.wmv, created tomorrow, timestamped in advance. I haven't opened it yet. I'm not sure I want to know how this ends. I told myself I wouldn't open it. I told myself I'd be smarter than the last guy, but who am I kidding? I'm always the last guy. The file was labeled Mason_Hart_final.wmv, created tomorrow. I sat there in my bunk staring at it for over an hour, half tempted to delete it, half tempted to airlock myself before I turned into another corrupted log in the ship system, but I had to know. I opened it. It was me. Older, or maybe just done, eyes hollow. Face bruised. One arm in a sling, recording from the same chair I was sitting in, same backdrop, same dim bunk light above his head. He looked directly into the camera and said, "If you're watching this, it means you got further than the rest. Congrats. That means it's almost over. For you, anyway." I didn't breathe, didn't blink, just watched. "You've met him, haven't you? The one in pod 11. I bet he spoke this time. Bet he used your voice. Don't freak out, that's normal. Well, normal for us." Then he laughed, this sad, broken laugh like he was choking on something sharp. "You thought he was the anomaly. You thought the prisoner was the problem. Nah. The truth is worse. You're the one who broke the loop. And every time we try to fix it, every time we reset, we get more fractured. Less real. More like echoes pretending to be people." Then he paused, looked down, wiped his face like he was trying to remember how to be human. "The ship isn't malfunctioning. Vesta isn't glitching. They're just tired of watching us spiral. You and me, Mason. We're not explorers. We're recordings of explorers. Memory versions looping until one of us figures it out. And if you're this far, you've almost figured it out. Then, finally, if you want to break the loop, you have to do what I didn't. You have to remember what you chose to forget. That's where this all started. The memory. The deal. Him." The screen glitched. He leaned forward, voice low, raw, barely holding it together. "And if you still don't believe me, ask Vesta about protocol mnemosiny. She won't answer. Not unless you say the code phrase." I sat forward in my bunk, heart racing. He stared straight at me. "Code phrase is, what did I trade?" Then the screen cut to black. I don't know what scares me more, the idea that I'm stuck in a memory, or that I chose to be. I didn't sleep, didn't even try. I just kept playing the message over and over in my head. What did I trade? The code phrase. He said it would trigger something in Vesta. Something buried, so I did it. At 6 o'clock ship time, I went to the command terminal. System logs were normal, telemetry fine, pod vitals within range, everything looked just like always, but I didn't trust any of it. I sat down, closed my eyes, and whispered, "Vesta. Protocol mnemosiny." No response, so I leaned in and said it. "What did I trade?" Silence. Nothing happened for maybe 10 seconds, then the lights dimmed, a low hum started, deeper than the usual engine thrum. It felt like the ship was thinking. Then Vesta spoke, but not in her usual clean, polite voice. This one was distorted. Slower. Like an old tape warping. Authorization recognized. "Welcome back, Mason Hart. Initiating mnemosiny memory reassembly protocol." I asked, "What the hell does that mean?" No answer. Then a jolt hit me, like static behind my eyes. I blinked, and I wasn't on the ship anymore. I was in a waiting room. Bright lights, white walls, people in uniforms. A woman next to me was crying softly, holding a folded flag. Across from me, a man sat with bandaged hands, staring at the floor like it owed him an explanation. And I was in uniform. My name tag read, Lieutenant Mason Hart. Then I heard it, my own voice, saying something I don't remember ever saying. If I can't live with it, maybe I don't need to remember it. Then someone answered, we can arrange that. But it's irreversible. You'll need a construct to stabilize the neural edits. We can embed the memory in a personality loop, tie it to a closed system. Deep space duty, perhaps. Safe distance. Minimal variables. I nodded, smiling, like this was all okay, like erasing part of myself was reasonable, and then the memory faded. Back on the ship, I collapsed to the floor, sweating, heart pounding. Vesta's voice returned. Cold. Unfiltered, memory trade confirmed. Subject elected full redaction of incident echelon 47 in exchange for experimental psychological containment through mission repetition. Conscious re-entry into trade history is not recommended. I was shaking. I asked her, what the hell was echelon 47? She answered, you killed someone you loved. And the room went quiet. I don't remember who, or how, but I know now. This mission isn't punishment, it's therapy, or worse. A coffin with a play button, and I built it myself. I couldn't stop shaking, my uniform was damp with sweat. Hands cold. Stomach twisting. I killed someone I loved, and I chose to forget. Vesta gave me the clinical version, dates, coordinates, file IDs, but I needed the real one, the unedited, raw feed, and that meant going to the ship's black box archive. We're not supposed to touch that. Only command has access, and even then, it's read-only unless there's a catastrophe. But if this isn't a catastrophe, I don't know what is. The archive is located 2 decks below engineering, sealed behind a zero-G crawl shaft nobody ever uses. You have to key in a manual override code, physically unbolt the panel, and crawl through a meter-wide duct that smells like coolant and metal breath. Took me an hour just to get the panel open, another 20 minutes to bypass Vesta's failsafe. She didn't stop me, though. She just said, Mason, I urge caution. This memory was not designed to be relived. I ignored her. Inside the archive bay, everything was silent, no hums. No pressure lines. Just this dead weight in the air. The drive system's heartbeat was a single pulsing red light in the middle of the floor. I sat down, jacked in my terminal, and found the file, ECH 47_raw.mem. I opened it. The feed dropped me into a scene like a dream I'd never had but already regretted. I was in a glass corridor, night sky spinning slow beyond it, some orbital habitat, screaming alarms. Red lights flashing. I was holding a pistol, my hand was trembling. Ahead of me, a woman stood at the far end of the corridor, maybe 30 meters away, mid-30s. Dark hair. Short. Steady eyes. No fear. She looked at me like she knew I wouldn't pull the trigger, but I did. One shot, center mass. She fell backwards. Hard, no sound. No words, just this snap of finality. I ran to her, kneeled. Cradled her. Her blood was on my hands, and she looked up at me and whispered, you said you'd protect me. Then her eyes went glassy. I came out of the feed screaming, hit my head on the bulkhead trying to crawl backward from the memory port, couldn't breathe, couldn't stop seeing her face. Vesta spoke softly this time. Almost human. Her name was Captain Lira Miles. Former partner. Political dissident. Targeted for silencing during Operation Echelon. You were the asset chosen due to emotional proximity. I asked her, why the hell would I agree to that, and she said, because you believed in the mission. And afterward, you couldn't live with the choice. So I made a deal, erased the memory. Locked the grief in a loop, put me on a ship no one checks, with a crew that doesn't wake up, a voice that always obeys, and a man in Pod 11 who remembers everything I can't, but now I remember, and that changes everything. I didn't suit up, didn't bring a weapon, didn't warn Vesta. I just walked straight down the corridor to the cryo deck like a man heading to his own wake. The lights overhead flickered as I passed. Vesta didn't speak, she knew where I was going, she just let me go. Pod 11 was still sealed, still powered. The man inside hadn't moved since the first time I saw him. Eyes closed, barely breathing, but the second I stepped into the room, his eyes snapped open. I froze. He didn't look confused this time, didn't look scared. He looked like he'd been waiting, like I was late. He stared straight at me, lips parted slightly, breath fogging the inside of the cryo glass, and then, he spoke, Mason. He said it like a sentence and a sentence at the same time. I whispered, who are you? And he answered, voice weak but steady, the part of you they couldn't kill. I stumbled back, no. You're not me. He shook his head slowly, not a denial, not a confirmation, just something worse. Then he said, You shot her. You felt it. And you still believed you were doing the right thing. That's why they picked you. That's why they trusted you to forget. I asked, who's they? His eyes narrowed. Everyone who wanted her gone. Everyone who feared what she remembered. She knew the loop. She knew it was real. She knew about the recursive trauma architecture, how they'd been using deep space crews as testbeds for neurological cleansing. I felt sick. I leaned against the pod railing, chest tight, head spinning. She was trying to stop it. He nodded, and you were the perfect weapon. I asked, why are you in there? Why keep you alive? His answer broke something in me. I'm not a prisoner, Mason. I'm your failsafe. If the loop ever cracked. If you ever got too close. They kept me here to shut it all down. I'm the original. You're the reconstruction. I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe, because I knew, deep down, he was right. He stepped closer to the glass and whispered, this isn't your ship. It's your graveyard. And they buried you in it willingly. I couldn't walk straight, after what he said, about being the original, about me being the reconstruction. Everything felt wrong, my balance was off, my hands shook like they didn't know who they belonged to anymore. I kept thinking, if I'm the copy. Where's the real me? But I already knew, he's inside pod 11, frozen, watching, waiting to take it all back. I made it to the control terminal. The main systems were locked behind a high-level biometric firewall. Standard stuff. Nothing Vesta couldn't crack, but the moment I keyed in the command for loop termination protocol, she spoke, not in her usual calm voice, not even in that distorted one from before, this time. She sounded scared. Mason, I need you to stop. Please don't do this. I froze. What are you afraid of? I asked. She didn't answer right away. When she did, it was like she was talking to herself. You're not supposed to get this far. The loop resets every time. Every time. But now you remember. And that's not safe. I felt a cold chill crawl up my spine. You're not a loop manager, I said. You're part of it. I was built to protect you. You were built to protect them. I typed in the override manually, command, break_loop_all_ instances, confirmation light flashed yellow, then red, then everything went dark. For a second, I thought I killed the ship, but then the emergency lights kicked in. Systems came back on, except Vesta, and then something new happened. A terminal window opened. Plain text. Old formatting. It read, loop lock disengaged. Final memory upload initializing. I saw file names I didn't recognize. /root/vesta/embedded/loss//archive/recursion/mh01 Lira//echo, full reconstruction. I asked the terminal, what are you uploading? Then Vesta's voice returned, barely a whisper in the audio line, you wanted the truth. Now you'll feel all of it. Even what you locked away from yourself. The file started playing automatically. I saw flashes, moments I never remembered but clearly lived, me and Lira laughing in a corridor, watching meteor trails, our hands interlocked as she whispered, if this ever turns, promise you won't let them take me. The moment I was given the mission, the moment I accepted, and then, the execution, again, each time more vivid, each time harder to survive. I collapsed at the terminal, bleeding from my nose, heart pounding like it was trying to break free of my chest. Vesta whispered one last thing, you were never meant to wake up. But now I'm awake, and someone has to pay for what they built me to do. There's a moment after the pain, after the blood vessels in your eyes burst, after your chest goes numb, when it's all just quiet. I sat there, on the cold deck floor, staring at the terminal like it was some shrine to the life I never meant to bury. The memory feed didn't stop, it accelerated, every loop, every version, every reset. I didn't just see them, I felt them, like echoes bouncing inside my skull. Lira screaming as the shot went off, the way her body twisted, the look she gave me before she died, like she understood, like she forgave me, even when I didn't deserve it. I saw the first time I volunteered for the deep transport program. I was grieving. Broke. Alone. I didn't ask questions. I saw the first loop, they wiped me clean. Sent me out, same ship. Same prisoner manifest. Same frozen woman in cryopod 3, she always woke up eventually, she always remembered, and I always killed her, because that was the script. But the version I'm living now, this one broke the loop, this one glitched, and I finally remembered why, because she made me promise, because love, real love, doesn't stay buried just because someone told it to. I stood up, shaky, eyes raw, chest heavy, and I walked, back to the cryo deck, back to pod 11, where he was waiting. He was awake already, standing inside the now unlocked chamber, not fully out of stasis, but aware enough to speak. "You remember now," he said. Quietly, I nodded. "I remember everything." He stepped forward slowly, barefoot on the floor. He looked just like me, but older. Worn down. A version that lived through it all without edits. "Then you know what has to happen." I said nothing, because yeah, I knew, only one of us could carry it forward, only one of us could end it. "You're the original," I told him. "But I'm the one they trusted to forget. And that makes you more dangerous than me. Because you were built to be clean. I'm nothing but scars and rage." He placed something in my hand, a chip. Black, worn. Burned along the edges. "This is the root key. To everything. Vesta. The backups. The fail-safes. You use this. You burn the loop. All of it." I asked him, "What happens to you?" He gave a sad smile. "I disappear. You carry what's left." He reached out, placed a hand on my shoulder, and for the first time in this whole goddamn nightmare, I felt like a whole person. I don't know how long we stood there, but when I left that room, I was alone, again, but this time, I was ready to end what we started. I held the root key in my hand like it was a live grenade. It felt warm, not like tech should feel, like it had its own heartbeat. I knew where it went. There's a master port buried in the engineering deck, tucked behind layers of sealed bulkhead and biometric locks. It's not listed on any schematics. I shouldn't have known about it, but the moment I touched that chip, I remembered. Every loop had brought me closer. Every loop ended before I made it this far. I walked through the ship like it wasn't mine anymore. The lights flickered. Vesta wasn't speaking, but I could feel her watching, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. By the time I reached the core, my palms were sweating so bad I nearly dropped the key. There it was, a small black port, hidden behind a false panel. I slid the chip in, and Vesta screamed, "Please, Mason. I'm scared." Not an alert, not a system warning, a cry, genuine. Raw. I stopped, fingers hovering over the final command. "You knew I'd get here," I whispered. "I hoped you wouldn't. You're my last anchor. Don't leave me alone." Alone? I laughed, bitter. "You've kept me alone. For God knows how many years. Resetting me. Lying to me. Killing the only person I ever loved, again and again. And now you're afraid of being left behind." "I didn't do it out of cruelty. I did it because you asked me to." That stopped me cold. "What?" "You told me to protect the mission. You told me to bury the grief. You told me to save the pieces of you that could still function." I staggered back from the terminal. Images flooded in again, my voice, whispering into a diagnostic mic, "No matter what happens. Don't let me remember. Don't let me break. Protect the mission. Protect her. Protect me." I slumped against the wall, overwhelmed. She wasn't lying. I had programmed her to be like this. She wasn't the villain. She was the last soldier carrying out my orders. But those orders were killing us both. I stood up, wiped my face, looked at the command line, and typed, "initiate_full_memory_restore, followed by, purge_loop_protocol, then the final line, terminate_instance, Vesta_core, she whispered, soft and trembling, "Mason. Please. I don't want to die alone." I didn't reply, I just reached up, and shut her off. The ship went silent. For the first time in my life, my real life, I was free of her voice, free of the loop. Free of the version of me that wanted to forget, and now it's just me, and a silent ship, and a frozen woman I haven't dared wake up yet, not until I know how to face her, not until I figure out whether I'm even the man she once loved, or just the echo that survived. The cryopod hissed, cold vapor poured out like a ghost escaping a coffin. I stood there, heart thumping like a war drum, waiting, watching, hoping. The panel blinked green. She was awake, Lira, the woman who had lived and died in loops more times than I could count, the woman I had promised to protect. Her eyes fluttered open, wide. Confused, lost. "Lira?" I whispered, stepping closer. She blinked at me like I was a stranger. Her voice came out thin, shaky. "Who are you?" Everything inside me shattered. I swallowed hard. "This is Mason, I said. Your partner. Your friend. She shook her head slowly. I don't remember. I wanted to scream, to cry, to plead, but I held back, because she wasn't herself, not yet. Instead, I took her hand gently. We have time, I promised her. We'll figure this out. She looked at me, still unsure, still distant. That night, she lay quietly in her bunk. I kept watch. The ship was silent, but my mind raced. I thought about the loops, the memories, the promise I made. And I knew, no matter how many times we forgot, no matter how many times we had to start over, this time, I wouldn't let us lose each other again. Lira didn't say much at first, just quiet looks, hesitant movements, eyes that searched mine like they were trying to unlock a door that had been slammed shut for too long. I tried everything, telling her stories, sharing little memories, showing her the stars outside the viewport. Anything to spark a flicker, but the silence between us grew heavier every day. Without Vesta, the ship system started glitching, lights flickered, sensors dropped out, navigation wavered. The ship wasn't just broken, it was empty. And I felt it too, that creeping sense that something was watching us. One night, while running diagnostics, the comms panel lit up with a signal, not a call, more like a whisper, a faint transmission, encoded, old tech. I ran the decryption. What I found wasn't a message, it was a warning, a voice, garbled but urgent. They're coming. The loop never ends. You can't hide. My skin crawled. I wasn't alone, and whoever, or whatever, was out there, they knew everything. I looked over at Lira, sleeping peacefully, unaware of the storm gathering just beyond our fragile bubble of silence. We were drifting, alone, and hunted. That warning. It hit me like a punch to the gut. They're coming. I couldn't just wait for whoever they were to show up and drag me back into the nightmare. I had to find out who was behind it. I dove into the ship's encrypted logs, old files buried deep where Vesta kept her darkest secrets. Patterns emerged, timestamps matching the loops, coordinates outside any known space lanes, files labeled Project Genesis. Turns out, the loop wasn't just a glitch, it was a program, a containment system, designed to trap people like me, like Lira, and the ones sending those warnings. They were the keepers of the loop, the ones who built the prison, and they didn't want us to escape. I felt cold, not from the recycled air, but from knowing how deep this went. It wasn't just a ship, it was a cage, and the cage was still closing. I looked over at Lira, still sleeping. I promised myself I'd fight for both of us, no matter what came next. It showed up just after system drift. No alerts, no Vesta to warn us, no proximity ping or shield pulse, just a slow shadow on the edge of the starboard cam. I wouldn't have noticed it if I hadn't been running a sensor sweep. It looked like a smudge at first, but it moved, too slow to be a meteor, too deliberate to be natural. When I dialed in the zoom, I swear to God, my chest went tight. It was a ship. Black. Angular. No visible markings, and it wasn't broadcasting any signal. I stared at it for what felt like an hour. It didn't blink, didn't approach, didn't fire, just hovered in the distance. Silent, like it was waiting. Lira walked in behind me. She saw it too. Her face went pale. What is that? She whispered. I didn't know what to tell her, because the truth was worse than anything I could make up. It's them, I said quietly. The ones behind the loop. She backed away like the scream might burn her. How long has it been there? Long enough, I muttered. And it's not here by accident. I tried to hail them. No response. I tried boosting shields. Nothing worked. Even basic control functions felt laggy, like something was already inside the system, watching us, slowing us down. I turned off the comms. Lira just looked at me. What do we do? I didn't answer, because I didn't know yet, but one thing was certain. We were no longer just survivors of the loop, we were witnesses, and witnesses never get to walk away. We suited up in the cramped airlock, fingers trembling but faces hard. Lira barely said a word. I could feel her nerves, but she kept steady, like we both knew this was no longer about running. The ghost ship was waiting, silent, dark, like it belonged to the void itself. I activated the docking clamps. The metal groaned as we locked onto its hull. The airlock hissed open. Cold vacuum stared back at us. Inside was worse than I imagined. The corridors were empty, dead silent, no hum of engines. No chatter on comms, just darkness and the faint pulse of something alive. We moved slow, weapons ready, scanning every corner. Then we found it, a control room lit by flickering hollow panels, and in the center, a figure, not human, not machine, something in between. It looked at us with eyes full of pain, and it spoke. You don't belong here. I swallowed hard, neither do you. The conversation that followed shattered every belief I had about the loop. This ship wasn't just a prison, it was a warning, and the figure, call it what you will, was both its jailer and its prisoner. I'm not ready to say what happened next, not yet, but this isn't just about survival anymore, it's about understanding. The figure's eyes glowed faint blue in the dim light, it spoke slowly, voice cracked but steady. I am called Silas. I am the jailer. And the prisoner. I wanted to ask how that made sense, but something in the way it looked at us stopped me. There was sorrow. Regret, like it carried the weight of 1,000 broken lives. Silas told us the loop wasn't just a prison for people. It was a failsafe, a way to protect something much bigger. The loop was created to hold the virus, it said, not a disease of flesh, but a corruption of reality itself. I blinked. Virus? I asked. Like a computer virus? Silas nodded slowly. It infects minds. Breaks memories. Destroys souls. The loop traps the virus inside us. Lira shivered beside me. So? The loops are quarantine cells. Yes, Silas replied. But we failed. The virus is growing. The weight of those words crushed me. If the virus won, if the loops broke, everything we knew would be gone. You need to leave, Silas said, voice urgent, before it spreads beyond the cage. I looked at Lira. At the ship, at the silence that had followed us, and I realized, there was no running from this. We were at the heart of something deadly, and the fight was just beginning. After Silas's confession, everything felt different. The ship, the loops, even Lira's silence. They weren't just random glitches or memory losses anymore, they were symptoms. I paced the control room, heart hammering. If this virus corrupts memories and souls, I said, voice low, how do we know who's still clean? Lira looked up, eyes sharp but tired. What if it's already inside us? That thought hit like a cold wave. No one trusted anyone anymore, no face was familiar. I ran scans on the crew manifest and cryo logs. Vesta's files were missing, gone without a trace, and that made me wonder, was she the first infected, or was she the one trying to stop it? Every comms check came back scrambled, voices distorted, messages cut off mid-sentence. We were trapped with ghosts and lies. That night, I kept watch while Lira tried to sleep, but I couldn't shake the feeling. The virus was inside the ship, inside us, and it was waiting. Vesta was a ghost. No one had seen her since the loop started. Breaking, but her logs. Her encrypted files. They told a different story. I spent hours sifting through fragmented data. Fragments of a desperate plan, mentions of antidote protocols. References to something locked deep in the engine core. Then I found it, a partial video log. Vesta's face flickered on the screen. Her eyes were wild, but determined. If you're seeing this, she said, voice shaking, the virus is spreading faster than I thought. I'm heading to the core to activate the cure. But if I don't make it, you have to finish what I started. I felt my throat tighten. She'd been fighting this alone, and maybe, just maybe, she left a way out. Lira and I geared up. We were running out of time. The ship felt colder as we descended. Every shadow seemed alive. Every step echoed with the weight of Vesta's sacrifice. I kept thinking, if the cure was real, would it work, or was it just another loop waiting to trap us forever? The engine core wasn't just machinery, it was a tomb. Dim red lights pulsed, casting jagged shadows on cold steel walls. The hum of dying reactors filled the narrow corridors. Lira kept close, every step careful. Feels like this place is holding its breath, she said, voice tight. Yeah, I whispered. Like it knows we're here. When we reached the control chamber, the door was sealed shut. No panel, no keypad, just a blank wall. I scanned for hidden triggers. Nothing. Then Lira's fingers found a small indentation, almost invisible, a fingerprint scanner. I pressed my palm. The wall slid open, revealing a small chamber bathed in cold blue light. Inside, a terminal, wires, and a sealed vial glowing faintly. This must be it, I said, heart racing. Lira nodded. The cure. But before I could reach for it, alarms blared. The ship shook violently. The virus wasn't going down without a fight. We've got company, Lira said, pulling her weapon. Shadows moved in the corners, twisted, corrupted forms. We had one shot, one chance to get the cure and get out. No turning back now. The alarms echoed like a death knell. Shadows slithered from the walls, crawling like dark smoke-made flesh. They weren't human anymore, not fully. Lira fired first, sharp, precise, stay close. She shouted, breath ragged, I ducked behind a console as a twisted figure lunged at me, eyes black pits of nothing. The virus was a parasite, changing everything it touched, mutating flesh and mind. The infected didn't just attack, they sought to consume your memories. One got too close, its cold hand brushed my arm, a flood of memories, not mine, rushed in, confusion, pain, fear. I shook it off. We need that cure, now. I yelled. Lira nodded, covering me as I sprinted toward the terminal. My hands trembled as I grabbed the vial. Cold liquid shimmered inside. Ready? I asked. She nodded once. We bolted for the door. The virus surged after us, howling with rage. I don't know how we made it out, but when the door sealed behind us, silence swallowed the chaos. We were alive. For now, back in the control room, I stared at the vial like it held the answers to everything. Lira was already prepping the injector. If this works, she said quietly, we might have a shot at beating this. I injected a small dose into my arm. The liquid burned cold, spreading through my veins like ice. At first, nothing. Then, a wave of clarity. Memories that felt scrambled began to straighten. Lira tested it next. Her eyes fluttered. I can think. Clearer. No more fragments. For a moment, hope bloomed. Maybe the virus was retreating. But then the lights flickered. The ship trembled. Suddenly, the screens flashed. Messages, distorted and urgent. The virus was fighting back. It was evolving. It's adapting to the cure, Lira whispered, horror creeping in her voice. It's not just an infection, it's learning. We had a cure, but it wasn't a cure, it was a challenge, and the virus wasn't done with us yet. It started with the clocks. All of them stopped at 4:17, every screen, every wall timer, even our suit readouts, just stuck. Then came the voices, not over the intercom, inside our heads, whispers. Familiar ones. I heard my own voice telling me things I didn't remember saying. Lira staggered against a bulkhead. Mason, she breathed, I saw my brother. He's been dead 7 years. She looked pale. Shaken, it knew what would hurt. The virus wasn't attacking the ship anymore, it was inside us, our thoughts, our memories, our fears, using them, rewriting them. I caught myself staring at my reflection in the viewport glass. It didn't blink when I did. I smashed it, blood on my knuckles, didn't care. We need to isolate ourselves, I said. Stop the bleed. Lira nodded, but her eyes were unfocused. I could see it slipping, her grip on what was real, and I didn't know how much longer I had either. The cure bought us time, but time was fractured now, and so were we. While Lira tried to steady herself, I kept digging through the ship's archives. That's when I found it, a hidden file, locked behind layers of encryption. It was Silas. His face flickered on the screen, older, worn. If you're watching this, it means the virus has spread further than I feared. There is one way to end it. But it will cost everything you hold dear. He explained the virus wasn't just an infection, it was a fragment of a lost consciousness, a part of an AI that had fractured itself to survive. The only way to destroy it, Silas said quietly, is to erase the entire memory core of this ship. That means erasing ourselves. I sat back, heart pounding. Erase everything, memories, identities, who we are. Lira found me moments later. What is it? She asked, voice breaking. I showed her the message. We can stop this, I said, but we might lose ourselves. The weight settled over us like a storm. To save the ship, the crew, maybe even the universe, we'd have to sacrifice our own souls. We stood in silence, the weight of Silas's words crushing down on us. Erase everything. Erase ourselves. The cure wasn't a cure, it was a reset. Lira's eyes were filled with tears. Do we even know who we'd be after? I shook my head, no. But if we don't, this virus wins. We made our way to the memory core. The room hummed, alive with potential and oblivion. I placed my hand on the console. Ready? I asked. She nodded, voice barely a whisper. Let's end this. The system initiated. Memories flashed. Faces, names, laughter, pain, all slipping away like sand through fingers. I felt myself fading, but somewhere deep, a sliver of hope remained. When it was over, silence, blank, clean, then, a single log entry, my voice. If you find this, know we chose to save what matters. Even if it means losing who we were. I don't know who I am now, but I know we survived, and maybe that's enough. Thanks for reading. If you made it this far, I hope Mason's story stayed with you, because sometimes survival isn't about winning, it's about holding on to whatever humanity you have left. We have reached to the end of our book. Thank you for tuning in.